Hello, welcome to Gardening with Miss Carrie. In today's video I want to show you how to take care of a plant that's outgrown its pot. This is oregano, which is a super easy plant to grow. And as you can see, its roots have started to wind around and take over all of the dirt in its pot. It needs a bigger pot. So I've prepared this pot for its new home, but before I put it in its new home, I need to loosen up these roots. And there's some theories out there that you should not disturb the root base, which it is sound. In general, you don't want to amend your soil and disturb your soil too much, because there's a lot of wonderful microorganisms that live and thrive in there, and you don't want to disturb their home too much. But when repotting a plant, especially one that's it's become root bound and its roots have tangled around itself, it's basically such a knot that it inhibits its growth. So in those cases, you really do need to loosen up its root base. This is true for trees as well. If the tree's roots have wound around itself in the pot, you just really need to work at it. This one's actually really easy to do. It's letting me work slowly at taking out. I got a little jade succulent here. I'm going to put to the side because I can replant that in its own pot. But this one's actually really easy. It just takes time. Some of them you really have to work at. I have my scoop here, and sometimes I just have to really hit it and bang it, and it can take a while to get those untangled. But if you have the patience, then it will allow your plant, once it's in its new pot, to really grow and thrive. The other thing when repotting a plant, besides untangling its roots, which can take a lot of time because they do get pretty tangly, this is all organic, the roots and some of the soil. If I'm going to save that, I can mix it with, I have some compost here. I can mix it in with the soil so that the soil is even. But you want the soil to be even. You don't want to have like clay or sand at the bottom or a bunch of rocks at the bottom. You want the soil to be consistency throughout the soil. A really good potting mix is good. I usually mix in some compost if it's a new plant. If it's an established plant that I'm not repotting, then like I said, you shouldn't amend the soil. You should just be putting the compost on the top of the soil, and every time you water it or it rains, that compost will naturally degrade and decompose, and all of its nutrients will naturally go throughout the soil, which makes it really nice without disturbing all those microorganisms that live in its base. So it actually makes it a lot easier than feeling like you have to amend your whole soil. Now, if your soil is a really poor quality and it doesn't have enough nutrients to sustain plants, then you might have to do something like that. But even in that case, you would want to make sure that your soil that you're mixing in is really rich, full of either compost, or that you've bought it specifically for the plants that you have outside. So I've got this pretty well untangled. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in my pot. Now, if it was a tree, I would want to, or as a bigger plant, like I have a large succulent right here that's really tall. It's really important to get those roots kind of spread out, so they have a really nice foundation, a good base. You don't want them just to go straight down into the soil. You want them to really be spread out. That gives them a nice base that makes them more stable. So I'm going to put this in. I'm going to try to spread out the roots a little bit so they aren't just going straight down. They're more spread out, giving it a nice strong base. And then I'm going to fill it in with my soil. I'm going to give it a little pat down. The reason you pat it down is because you want it to be nice and cozy in there. You want it when the organic matter decomposes, like all this extra roots that were torn away when I was trying to untangle the roots, that's all going to decompose, and that's why I like to fill my plants up to the very top, because as the organic matter decomposes, all of a sudden your soil levels go lower and lower level. You notice if you've had a plant for more than a couple years, then it started out right at the top of the pot and now it's like halfway down the pot. It's because all that organic material has decomposed. So I put this in and then I give it a good pat down, and then I add a little bit more. I want all those roots to be totally surrounded by all that nutritious soil. And then once I've done that, and I make sure, try to fill it almost to the top, because I know it's gonna, when it just decomposes, it's gonna go down. And then I'm gonna put a layer. I kind of use mulch. I put like a layer of mulch in on the top, and you never want to have bare soil even on your pots. You want to have it have a layer of mulch. In this case, my mulch is also compost. That's nice. And I just use it to cover the bare soil, and that's going to help the soil retain water, so I don't have to water it as often. It's going to give, if it's organic mulch, which I would recommend always using organic mulch, and not something like, never use rubber mulch or anything like that. And the reason organic mulch is so nice is because when it decomposes, it's going to feed your plant. It's also going to inhibit any weeds that you don't want popping up. So now I've repotted my plant. It's going to get now 3 times as large because it has a lot more room to grow, and it looks really nice and pretty. It's going to be nice and healthy. Thank you, gardeners. Bye-bye.